When a therapist looked me straight in the eye and said, "No one could love a girl like you," I swear my blood ran cold. But what shattered me completely wasn't just those words. It was finding out later that my own family had paid her to say them to my daughter. Imagine hearing that. Imagine realizing that the people who are supposed to love and protect your child went out of their way to break her spirit. Was I wrong for what I did next? I still ask myself that question every single day, but I know deep down that a line was crossed, and once I discovered the truth, there was no going back. It all started about 4 years ago. At that time, I was a single mother trying to rebuild my life after a very messy divorce. My daughter, Mia, was only 7 years old, and she was my entire world. Her father and I had split because of his constant manipulation and emotional abuse, and though I tried to shield Mia from the worst of it, kids always pick up on more than we think. She'd started having nightmares, lashing out at school, and becoming quiet around people she used to love. I knew she needed someone to talk to, someone professional who could help her make sense of her feelings. That's when my sister, Ova, suggested a child therapist she knew from a friend. Ava said this woman had helped her friend's kid through anxiety, and she insisted this therapist specialized in children of divorce. I was desperate for help, so I agreed. From the first session, I could tell something was off. The therapist, Dr. Palmer, had this cold, performative kind of warmth. She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. She asked questions that seemed more like traps than therapy prompts. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. I wanted this to work for Mia. I wanted her to feel safe again. But after about a month, I noticed Mia becoming different. She stopped talking about her friends. She started calling herself bad and unlovable. I'd ask her where that came from, and she'd just say, "Doctor, Palmer says I should try harder to be good so people don't leave me." I remember sitting on the couch that night after she went to bed, crying quietly so she wouldn't hear me. My daughter, my sweet, soft-hearted little girl, was internalizing shame from someone I had trusted to help her heal. I confronted Dr. Palmer the next week. I asked her why Mia was saying those things. She gave me that same frozen smile and said, "Children sometimes need to face the truth before they can rebuild self-esteem." Her words made my stomach twist. "The truth," I asked, "that no one could love her." She tilted her head, calm as ever, and said, "It's not about that. It's about understanding why she feels unworthy and helping her see how she can change that." That didn't sound therapeutic, it sounded cruel. I decided then that I'd pull me out after that session. But before I could, my sister called and asked how things were going. I told her I was uncomfortable with Dr. Palmer and planned to find someone new. Ava immediately got defensive, saying I was too sensitive, and projecting my own issues onto Mia. It turned into a small argument, and I hung up feeling even more confused. A week later, everything blew up. Mia came home from her appointment unusually quiet. I sat beside her at dinner, trying to make her laugh, but she just stared at her plate. Finally, she whispered, "Mommy, am I broken?" My heart sank. "No, baby," I said. "Why would you think that?" Her eyes filled with tears. Dr. Palmer said that some kids are too hard to love, and maybe that's why Daddy left. I swear I stopped breathing. My ears rang, my hands shook, and for a second I didn't know if I wanted to scream or cry. I picked her up, held her tight, and promised her that none of that was true. But in that moment I knew something was deeply, maliciously wrong. The next day I called Dr. Palmer's office demanding an explanation. Her receptionist said she was unavailable for direct contact, which was strange because she'd always been reachable before. I left message after message until finally she called back a week later. I was ready to unleash hell, but she started talking before I could even get a word out. "I understand you're upset," she said coolly, "but sometimes a little discomfort is necessary for growth." That's when I snapped. I told her she was never to see or speak to my daughter again, and that I'd be reporting her to the board. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, Do what you need to do, but maybe check with your family before you make a fool of yourself." That last sentence haunted me. What did my family have to do with this? A few days later, I found out. My sister came by unannounced, acting nervous, twitchy even. She kept avoiding eye contact, and finally, after I pressed her, she broke down crying. She admitted that my parents and she had gone behind my back and met with Dr. Palmer before I even started taking Mia there. They'd told her I was emotionally unstable after the divorce and that Mia needed firm guidance to avoid turning out like me. But the worst part, the absolute gut punch, was that they had paid Dr. Palmer extra to use tough love in her sessions to bring Mia back in line. I couldn't even process it at first. Paid her to say what? To break my daughter's confidence, to make her feel like her father's absence was her fault. Ava kept saying they meant well, that they just wanted Mia to grow up strong. I threw her out of my house that day and told her never to come back. So there I was, holding my crying child, knowing that the people who shared my blood had deliberately conspired to psychologically damage her. I didn't sleep for nights. I wrote complaint letters to the therapist's licensing board, to the agency she worked for, to anyone who would listen. I gathered text messages from my sister, statements from the daycare teacher who'd noticed Mia's change in behavior, and even managed to get a partial audio recording from one of the sessions, because Mia's backpack had accidentally captured it on her tablet. In that recording, Dr. Palmer actually said, "You need to understand, Mia, that sometimes no one can love a girl who doesn't behave the right way." Hearing that in her calm, almost motherly voice made me want to destroy something. Around this time, my parents reached out, trying to mediate. They said I was overreacting and misinterpreting the situation. My mother claimed that she and my father had just wanted to help me toughen up, because life isn't easy. I asked her how traumatizing a 7-year-old was supposed to make her stronger. My father said, "Sometimes pain builds character." I hung up on them and blocked their numbers. But the guilt, the confusion, it all ate at me. I started questioning whether maybe I was too emotional, too reactive. That's what years of gaslighting do to you. Even when you're right, you doubt yourself. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have cut off your whole family? Would you have gone after the therapist legally? Or would you have just walked away and tried to rebuild quietly? I genuinely want to know because at that point I felt completely alone, like no one could possibly understand the storm inside me. Anyway, I decided I couldn't let it go. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Mia's safety and her future. I filed an official complaint with the state licensing board and sent them the recording. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in child psychology malpractice, and to my surprise, he said I actually had a strong case. Apparently, paying a therapist to manipulate a child crosses several ethical and legal boundaries. He told me we could sue both Dr. Palmer and potentially my family for emotional harm and conspiracy. I hesitated for weeks. Suing your own parents and sister is something you can never take back. But then I'd look at Miss sleeping, clutching her stuffed rabbit, whispering sorry in her dreams, and my hesitation would vanish. When the investigation started, all hell broke loose. Dr. Palmer tried to deny everything at first, claiming I'd fabricated the recording. But once they verified it through audio forensics, she changed her story. She said she'd been misled by family members, and thought she was helping Mia through a behavioral adjustment program. The board suspended her license pending the full hearing. My parents, however, were furious. They accused me of ruining a good woman's career and airing family issues in public. I told them they'd made their choice when they paid that woman to mentally abuse my child. The legal battle took months, and it was brutal. Dr. Palmer's attorney tried to paint me as unstable and vindictive, dredging up my divorce records, claiming I was using my daughter's therapy as revenge against my ex. But then the evidence piled up. the payments traced from my parents' account, the emails between my sister and Doctor. Palmer discussing tough love techniques, and the notes from Mia's teachers describing her emotional decline during that period. Eventually, Dr. Palmer settled out of court. She lost her license permanently and had to issue a public apology as part of the settlement terms. But for me, the real betrayal, the one that didn't end in a courtroom, was with my family. My sister sent me long, tearful messages saying she regretted everything, that she never meant for it to go that far. My parents tried to act like nothing happened, sending birthday gifts and cards to Mia as if we could just move on. I didn't respond. For 2 years, I stayed completely no contact. I focused entirely on helping Mia heal. I found her a new therapist, one who specialized in trauma recovery and who built Mia's self-esteem back brick by brick. Slowly, she started smiling again. She started singing in the car like she used to, running to me after school with stories about her day. Every time she laughed, I felt a little piece of my heart mend. Then, one afternoon, when Mia was 9, she asked me something that broke me all over again. We were baking cookies, and out of nowhere she said, "Mommy, why did Grandma and Aunt Ava not like me?" I froze. I didn't know how much she remembered, but I told her the truth in a way she could understand, that sometimes adults make very bad choices and hurt people even when they think they're helping. She nodded and said, "But you still love me, right?" I hugged her so tight I could barely breathe and whispered, always, more than anything in the world. Years later, I heard through mutual relatives that my sister was in therapy herself, struggling with guilt and anxiety. My parents' health declined, and they tried again to reach out, saying family should stick together. But I can't bring myself to forgive them. Not yet, maybe not ever. Because forgiveness might make me feel lighter, but it doesn't erase the damage they caused to a child who didn't deserve any of it. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if there were warning signs I missed, little clues that my family never truly respected my ability to parent. They'd always criticized me for being too soft with Mia, for coddling her. My father used to say, "The world isn't kind, don't make her weak." But what he never understood was that kindness is strength, love is strength. What they called weakness is the very thing that made Mia resilient. She faced cruelty and manipulation, and still managed to grow into the kind, compassionate girl she is today. I know this story sounds unreal, like something out of a movie, but every part of it happened. It taught me that sometimes the people who claim to love you most can be the ones who harm you the deepest, and that protecting your child might mean standing completely alone. I lost my family, yes, but I gained something far more valuable, the unshakable knowledge that I did right by my daughter. So if you're watching this and you've ever doubted yourself because someone said you were too emotional, too protective, or too much, please remember this: empathy is not a flaw. Defending your child's spirit is not overreacting. You are not crazy for wanting them to feel loved and safe. And if anyone, therapist, friend, or family, tries to convince you otherwise, walk away before they make you doubt your own heart. Like this video if you were on my side, if you believe no parent should ever have to fight their own family just to protect their child. Subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you think. Was I right to cut them off completely, or should I have tried to forgive them? I genuinely want to know your thoughts. Thanks for listening to my story, and I'll see you all in the next one.